Hi, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and today we have a very cool training where we are going to be creating emails from a list of birthdays in Excel. The emails are going to be personalized completely, and we will create emails that contain details about that person as well as a birthday gift that has been personalized with the details of the information. So stay tuned, it's going to be an amazing training. Alrighty, great. Let's get started today. What I really want to do is I want to be able to send out birthday reminders to either my friends or perhaps my customers if I'm running a business. And I wanted to do it automatically. I don't want to think about it because I'll forget. And I also want to give them a bit of a coupon, maybe a little bit of a gift with their birthday, so that I'll encourage them to come back in and try our services again. So let's say perhaps we're a massage therapist. We have a table here of customers. We've got last name, first name. We have their last appointment date here and the problem that they were having the last time they came in, as well as some information about themselves, as well as their birthday and their email address, which is important, of course. And we also got this column whether the birthday email was sent or not, and we'll use that a little bit later on. So that's in my first sheet. In the second sheet, what I've done is I've designed an email template here, as you can see. And basically what I want to do is I want to send them a personalized email. I don't want to just send them something that says happy birthday, thank you very much. I want it to be personal. We have all this information. We have their first name. We know the problem. We know when they last came in. Their last appointment date. We have all of this information, so why not create a personalized email template, right? And since we have it, we can transfer that to email using Outlook. So what I've done here is basically I've created a subject, and then I've created a message, okay? And I also have variables. Now variables are things that are personal to them, like here, their first name, their last appointment date, birth date, last appointment text, and I'll show you what that is, and the problem they were having. And what we can do is we can use those variables within both the subject and the message, like I've done here, and I'll show you how to program that in a little bit later on. Okay, I also, not only do I want to send them a personalized email template, I want to send them a gift, and I want to send it to them in a picture format as an attachment in the email itself. So what I've done is I've got this picture from Google, right? And then what I've done is I've added their text, their name text here, okay? And to do this part of it, what I have done is I have just created a text shape here. Basically, this is the text shape, and what I've done with this text shape is I have attached it to a specific cell, B5. So if we go over here and we look at cell B5, we will see that their name is in here. So whatever name I put here, it's going to show up here under that. So we can see, so here, let me go ahead and change it now. Whatever name is in here will change on that. And so it looks like it's part of the cake. It's kind of a nice personalized touch there. So we can do that. And now the text within the coupon itself, I've decided to put a coupon. And inside this text here, all I've done is put in a specific text, and then I've attached B5 and B6. So what those are is the names, B5 here, their first name, B6 the last name. So the idea is, what I want to do is I want the code to run through this entire table from the first row to the last row. I want it to check if they're having a birthday. I want to send them a card, but not if they're having a birthday. I want to know if they're having a birthday on the current date, and to make sure that if we have not sent them a birthday card, I don't want to send them 2 birthday cards. If we run this file twice in the same day, I don't want to send them 2 birthday cards. I just want to send it to them once. So that's what I want to do. And I've also included some other text here. As you can see, what I've decided is I want to give them a 60-day window to bring this particular coupon in. So I've customized it. Now if you look at it in B4 plus 60, okay, if you look on B4, that is the current day. That is today's date. So basically what we've done is we've taken this date, we've added 60 to that, and that's how. And since today is September 11th, you're going to get November 11th here, or whatever the current date is, the 12th. So let's say 60 days from the 12th is November 11th, and that's why you have that date there. So this will be updated automatically. And if you, in yours, if you want to create a 90 or 100, you just change this number. So if we change this to 90, we'll see it changes to December 11th. So we can increase or decrease the window of time that this coupon is good simply by changing the variables in that. All right, I've also added some additional items. Now the idea is great. If it's their birthday, we want to send them a birthday card. That's great. But let's say your company works on Monday through Friday and their birthday is on Saturday or Sunday. Well, that could be a problem. If their birthday lands on a Saturday or Sunday and you don't open this file or you're not working, they're not going to get a birthday card that year, and that's kind of sad. So what I've done here is, I'll go ahead and bring it a little bit closer here, is I have added work days of the week. Okay, so if you're not working on these days, you'll just check and uncheck. And this code we went over in another lesson, but I'll go ahead and show that to you. It's a very simple code to add those check marks, and basically all I've done is I've changed the font to Wingdings, and this is the character that we use for the check mark. And in the developers module, Alt F11 or Visual Basic, in sheet 1, all I have done is added, in sheet 2, excuse me, all I have done is added this particular bit of code. Basically it says if the value is this, which is the check mark, then change it to blank. If it's blank, change it to the check mark. So that little bit of code allows us to use the check boxes. Okay, so for our intents and purposes, what I'm going to do is today, the day that I'm making this video is actually a Tuesday. So what I want to do is I'm going to say, you know what, we're not working Wednesday and Thursday, and that means today is Tuesday, September 12th. So that means if their birthday lands on Tuesday, September 12th, if their birthday lands on the 13th, or if their birthday lands on Thursday the 14th, I want to send an email today, okay, because we're not working the next 2 days. So basically what that is 3 days from the current date. And the current date is a Tuesday, so that's 2. So basically what I've done here is added weekday before of today. That just tells us that Tuesday is number 2. Okay, so we can set that because we want to know where to start. And then I added another formula here, and in this formula basically what it does is it adds a number, right? So the next workday, we need to know how many more workdays should we include. And since it's Tuesday, right? And since we're going to skip 2 days, that number is going to be 3. Now let's say we're going to work on Thursday but not Wednesday. This number changes to 2. Okay, and we'll go over this formula in a little bit of detail, but basically the idea is that we want to know how many days to skip. So how many days to include within that range of days that we're going to send a birthday to. All right, we'll go over that a little bit later on, but the idea is I just don't want to miss any birthdays if this file is not opened, if we're not working on that day. So that's why we've had this code. This particular code is we want to know how many days since the last appointment, right? Because in our email, we're going to say, hey, you haven't been coming in how many weeks or how many years or how many days. So I want to know how many days, okay? In this case, it's basically current date minus the last appointment date. And so as we run through the list of customers, right, we are going, this information here in Lightroom is going to change. So for every new customer, this will change. And then so we're going to be able to update the days and update this information as we go through the list. All right, so let's get started on the code. All right, Alt F11 to get back into our VBA. And we're going to go into this module. I've created a module here, although there's nothing in it yet. And we're going to call that email birthday. And once again, if you want to name this module, which I suggest you do, click on the properties here and go ahead and enter a name right here. Okay, it's important when you have many modules, you will definitely want to name each one of them so that you can tell them apart and keep them very organized. All right, the first thing we want to do is in this module is we want to dimension all of our variables, and we've got a lot of them. I've done this before, so let me just go ahead and save time. I'll copy and paste them, and then I'm going to go ahead and explain them to you. Okay, and I've dimensioned Outlook app and Outlook mail as objects. Okay, and those are going to be helpful for when we do create new emails through Outlook. We're going to need those as well. In fact, I can go ahead and add a chart pick up here as well, and I'll explain that one. And chart pick is going to be used to take that coupon, right, convert it to a chart, right, and make a picture out of it. And the reason we have to convert it to a chart is Excel does not allow us just to create pictures from a range of cells. So in actuality, we'll have to change it to a chart, and then Excel does allow us to convert a chart over to a picture and then save that in a file. We must save it in a file on our computer so that we can go ahead and attach it to that email. All right, and the next is the last row, and because we need to go through, right, we need to go through all of the rows here, and we need to define what the last row is, and we need to define whatever current row we're on. So the reason I've done that is so that we can define those last row. And the last appointment days, this is something that we went over here, which is here, the day since the last appointment. So we're going to define that as well. So that's long. It's also long just means a whole number. And the zoom level is something that we're going to use in the chart as well to set our chart zoom level. Okay, and then as for strings, well, we're going to have a lot of strings. We need to define the first name, the last name, remember the problem, the last appointment text. That's going to help us say, hey, you haven't been here in 2 days, or you haven't been here in 3 weeks, or 5 months, or 10 years. So we want to define that text. So we're going to use that, the subject of the email and the message of the email, and the location of the picture. We're going to have to set that location as a specific location in our computer in order to pull it up and in order to attach it to that email. So we've set the location. All right. And then we have a lot of dates. Birth date is one of them, and the from date and the to date, the birthday, from date. And the reason we have a range of dates, the reason we have 3 dates, is because if the next 2 days are non-work days, right, we need to set our to date. That means we want to include any birthday that happens today and any birthday that happens up until 3 days from now. So we need the original date, which is their birthday today, and then perhaps up to the next 3 days. So we want to set a range of days because perhaps we might need to set that. If we work tomorrow, that range of days, that to date and that from date are going to be the same day, right? Because we're working tomorrow. And the last appointment date is the date that the last time they came in, which is here, the last appointment date. So we need to define that as well. So I've set a date, and those are all set as dates, okay? And then the pick range, this is the range, and what this is, basically it sets this range, and that range here is E17 through H34. And these two are just pictures that I've added. I found them on Google. Okay, this cake and picture, and then you can put a logo, like a company logo here. So it's a really personalized. So the range here. So we got to set that range. So we've done that through code here. So that's it for the dimension statements. Now we can get started on our code. Okay, most of our work is going to be in sheet 2, right? This is the email template, sheet 2. So we will go ahead and say with sheet 2, okay, and then end with here. Okay, so anytime we use with, we want to use end with, okay, because that's so. Remember, when we're working with sheet 2, we can start out with dot range, but if we're working with sheet 1, we'll need to define that like sheet 1, okay, like that. So in this case, let's go ahead and first define the last row, because we're going to need to run through all the rows, right? We need to run through all the rows, but we don't know when the last row is. So let's go ahead and set that last row with a bit of line of code. And if you've seen my videos before, you'll know that we defined last row as, and then sheet 1 dot range, and then we're going to pick a specific column. In this case, you want to make sure that every column that has data. So in this case, we'll just use column E, okay? In column E, and then the last possible row, like if you've got 1,000 names, you're not going to set this to 900, right? You're going to set it to way above that. So in our case, we'll just use 999, and then dot end, and then dot XL up. Basically, all that's going to do is get us our last row. We need to define that last row of data. We don't want to go through any more than what's necessary. So we'll comment that as last row. So that'll be helpful so we know. And then the next is we want to define the current date. And if you remember here, we've set the variable under as this, 2 days. So let's go ahead and define that. TOD and then DATE equals, and then dot range, since our today's date is on sheet 2, okay, which is here, right? Equals today is the formula. So we know that sheet 2 holds B4, holds that today. So we'll go ahead and set that, okay, B4 as the value we want. And that's today's date, okay, so we know. So we've defined that, that's important. And now we can start our loop. And basically what we want to do is we want to loop, start at row 5 and loop all the way to the last row, and basically see if there's any birthdays that we need to send emails to. So let's go ahead and go back into VBA, and our loop will do custom row. We've defined custom row here in the long, right here, okay, right here. So we go ahead and define that for custom row equals 5 to, remember, starting off at row 5 to last row, okay, and then next custom row. Now everything that we're going to do with those emails is going to be between this for next statement, between the for next. So that's how we're going to get started. And let's go ahead and define the subject. Okay, subject, right, equals dot range, okay, dot, and then in this case it was F3 dot value. Okay, and remember F on our email, F3, okay, F3 is our subject and our message is on F4. So we can define those because we need to make sure we get those, and those are strings, right? And then our message, MESG, equals dot range F4. Okay. All right. So now we've defined our subject and our message, and now what we want to do is we're going to be placing data here, right? For every contact that meets our conditions, we're going to place the data here, and then we're going to use it. So this is important because we need this data to make the name. We need this data to put in the specifics here, and especially for the name here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to clear out any old data in the code. You know, if there was one that was entered before, we want to make sure we want to clear that out. So we can do that with a line of code here. So we just say dot range B5 through B7 dot clear contents, and make sure you do not clear will actually clear out everything. It'll clear out all the formats, it'll clear out you know, anything else that's been there. So you want to use clear contents. All we want to do is clear out the data, not the formatting, okay? And so that will help us there. And our next thing is we want to define the birth date, okay? And the birth date is equal, as it's going through, sheet 1 dot range, and I believe it was in M. We'll column M is where our birthday is holding, and customer row dot value. Okay, that's the birth date. Birthday date. Okay, if you look back in our table, column M holds our birthday. Okay, so that's important. All right, let's go ahead and back into the code so we can continue. Right. So now that we've defined the birth date, we need to define the from date. Okay, and basically the idea is the birth date, you know, the year, we need to match the year, but the year is the current year. So we need to take basically the month of the birth date, the day of the birth date, and the current year and create a date out of that so we can see. And we can do that with the birthday from date, okay, that's going to be the original from date, is equal to, we can use a date serial. And basically what this does is allows us to enter a year, enter a month, and enter a date, and then it creates a date out of that. Okay, and we can do that. So we would enter the year now. And what is the year? Well, it's the current year. You know, we want to make sure we're on the current year. So the year of the current year is year, and then it's, remember, it's today's date. So we want the current year, TOD, TE. Okay, so that's the current year. Remember, this is today's date. Okay, so all we're doing is pulling the year out. And the next is month. Now we got to get a month. So the month, we're going to do the month of, not the current month, because we want the month of their birthday. We need to check if it's their birthday or not. So we need to define what month of their birthday is. And that's simple, is the month of the birth date. Okay, BDDAT. So the month of their birth date. And then we also want the day of their birthday. So we can do day as well, and then birth date. Okay, so what this is going to do is going to create their birthday. Okay, so the birthday from date. And now what we need to do is enter the to date. If we don't work tomorrow, right, we want to say, hey, if there's a birthday today, or if there's a birthday tomorrow, I want to send an email because we're not working tomorrow. Okay, so we need to set that to date as well. So we can do that with the birthday to date is equal to, right, and then it's today's date, right, which is today's date, plus what? Plus, let's go ahead and pull that out, plus the number of days here minus 1. So that means if our next working date is 1, right, that means we're working tomorrow, right? But if it's 2, right, that means our next working date is in 2 days. So that means I want to include tomorrow as well. So in that case, it would be plus 2 minus 1. So that means include today and tomorrow. And we can do that in the code from here. So all we're going to do is plus dot range B10. Remember, B10 is where those numbers are. Dot value minus 1. Okay, so that's going to set our birthday to date. So this is a range of 2 dates. Possibly they're going to be the same if we're working tomorrow, which is okay. But if we're not working the next 2 days, it'll be more than that. Okay, so now we can start our if statement. If, okay, now we're going to check as we go down the rows. We're going to check to see if we should be sending a birthday, and we have to, there's a multiple conditions that we have to check for. The first is which is if birthday from date is greater than or equal today's date, okay, and birthday from date, okay, is less than or equal the to date. So basically, if both of those conditions are met, both must be met in order to send a birthday email. Okay, then, all right, okay, so birthday from date is greater than or equal to today's date, and oh, I forgot a D right here. See, this is a good test. I know that I forgot it. I know that this is not right because if you look, I've capitalized the word date. So automatically this didn't capitalize. That tells me right away, hey, Randy, you didn't enter it right. So if I add a D in there, now it automatically capitalized. Now I know. So when I try to write in lowercase, BDFRDATE, right? I try to write, so if it automatically changes to uppercase, I know I've got it right. And if it stays in lowercase, I know something's not right. So it's a good way to error check when you're writing code. And so next up, okay, so we've tested that, but there's one other test we want to run. I don't want to send them a birthday for this year if I've already sent them, okay? So basically, when we send them birthday email, I'm going to put the current date here. So that way we know we've sent it. We don't need to send them another one. If for some you open the software, you run the code again, you don't want to send them 2 emails on the same year. So we're going to check one, is there a date in here? And if there is a date in here, maybe we sent it to them last year. So we don't want to just skip it. We don't want to skip if that if there's a value there, it maybe we sent it last year, right? But we still need to send them this year. So we have to check, one, is there a value in there? And two, is the year the same? If we sent it to them last year, we still want to send it to them this year. So we got to run that check on it. And we can do that with one more if statement. And we can enter if sheet 1 range Q and custom row dot value equals empty. Okay, that means if it's empty, sure, you can go ahead and run it. Or if it's not empty, but the years are different, in other words, if we sent one the previous year, but not this year, also you can go ahead and run it and create that email. Or if the year of today date does not equal the year of the birthday date, okay, then, and what year is that? That would be the year of this value right here, okay, or the year of this value. All right, then we can go ahead and run the code. So now if both of those are okay, then we can go ahead and send them an email. Now all of that email will come in between here, all the information. So the first thing we want to do if they've passed those two tests is we want to, now we can start defining our variables and our names. So the first is the first name. Okay, what is the first name? And that's equal to sheet 1 range, and then I think it's F, okay, F, and the custom row. So that's the first name. All right, and then problem, right, because we want to know what problem they had before, so we can put that in the email. Problem equals is the H, okay, so we can just go ahead and actually copy and then change the column simply here, and that's H, okay, and we'll go ahead and put that in. Let's go ahead and comment first name. And down here we can comment problem, although that's pretty obvious. And then next up, the last appointment date, we want to enter that last appointment date, okay, and I believe that was on G, okay, the last appointment is G. All right, let's go ahead and pull that up. Last appointment date is G, okay. First name F, E, and the problem is H. Okay, so we're good on that. And next up, we want to put our information here. We want to put the first name here in B5, last name in B6, and the last appointment date in B7. We can do that with code as well. Back into the VBA we go, and we can start to define those. B5, as we had said, that is going to be the first name. So dot range B5 dot value equals first name, okay, and then the next one B6, okay, and that one is going to be equal to the last name, and we haven't defined the last name in a variable, but that's okay. We know it's column E, so it's sheet 1 dot range E, okay, and custom row, okay, dot value, and that's the last name. And then the last one is the last appointment date, so that's in B7. All right, B7 dot value, and that is going to equal last appointment date. Okay, and then we want to make sure, although it's usually automatic, I like to add in a calculate because we have formula. So once we enter that information, we want to make sure to calculate, right? So we're going to type in dot calculate, and what that's going to do is calculate any, because this is a formula, this is a formula, and these are formulas, right? So and they're based on this data here. So we want to make sure to tell Excel calculate. Often it's not necessary, but sometimes when I run through my code, if it's slow, and this one's going to be a little bit slow, I will start it out and stop the calculation, and I'll reset it at the bottom. So when you stop the calculation, your code is much faster, but there's no calculations going on, which is great. But sometimes you have to automatically hit calculate. So that's why I do that. You may want to speed this code up. It's a little bit slow. And you can easily do that by stopping the calculation and then restarting it once the code is completely done. So that's why I use dot calculate. in that case, so it should help. And now let's go ahead and set the last appointment days. After we've calculated it, we know that the last appointment days are going to be here, in this case, B8. So we can go ahead and let's go ahead and define that in the code. Last appointment days is equal to dot range and then B8, okay, B8 dot value, and that's days since the last appointment. Okay, that's just a comment, so we know always what that is. And now, fun part, I want to introduce you to something called case. Case is like in the code, it allows for multiple conditions. Instead of using if this, then this, if this, then this, case really is going to allow us. And the reason we're going to use case is because the last appointment days, we don't want to put it in the email, it's been 891 days since your last appointment. That's really weird. We'd rather say it's been 2 years. But what if it's been, 20 days? Well, we don't want to say it's been 0.01 years. So we want really custom text to say it's been 3 days, it's been 3 weeks, it's been 4 months, or it's been 5 years, right? We want that email really customized to fit them. So we can do that using case. So in this case, we've defined the last appointment days, okay? The last appointment days. And we defined last appointment text. Remember we had last appointment text here? This is what we're going to build out right now. Last appointment. It has been how long since your last visit. Now we don't know whether it's 1 day or 10 years. Okay, so let's go ahead and build that through code right now, and we can use something called case, and we can do that with select case and then last appointment days. Last appointment days. Okay, and last appointment days is the variable. We've just defined it, and we're going to end this with end select and build everything in between. Okay, and what we're going to say is if the case from 1 to 14, that means if the last appointment days are between 1 and 14, and if that's the case, okay, that's where if that's the case, then I want to set the last appointment text equal to, right, last appointment days and days. Okay, so basically the text is going to be, let's say last appointment days are 13 days, right? Our text is going to be 13 and days, right? The text is going to be 13 and days. But so what if it's more than 14? If it's more than 14, I want to put weeks. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it up here. Case is equal 15 to, let's say, 42. Okay, let's say, build out, say 7 weeks, right? From 2 to 7 weeks, we will use weeks. So in that case, last appointment text is equal to, okay, and we don't want the days, so this way we're going to do last appointment days divided by 7. Okay, divided by 7, and then and quotation space weeks. Okay, and there's one thing. Now let's just say I don't want any decimals. I don't want it to say 2.3566 weeks, right? So I just wanted to round it off, right? I don't want any decimals. So we can do that by adding round. Okay, so whatever the last appointment days divided by 7, round it, and then we can use comma, and it says the number of digits. We don't want any digits, so we're going to hit 0. Okay, so that's going to round it off. That helps. So that way we always use whole numbers when we're describing weeks, and we don't get any decimals. All right. Next up, in the case we want months. So in this case, let's say we're going to say 6 weeks to 1 year. We can use months. So case, if the days are 43 to 365, okay, in that case, last appointment text is equal to, and we're going to also use the round on this one, round last appointment days, right, divided by, and we can round off to, let's say, 30 days, okay, also no digits, okay, and in this case, months, right, months, okay, great. And the last one, we want to know, if it's greater than 1 year, we're just going to put year. So case is greater than 365, 365. In that case, last appointment text is equal to, once again, we're going to use the round, last appointment days divided by 365 days in a year, 365, no decimals, right? No digits after the decimal, and then you can do years. You can also do, let's say, if it's just 1 year, you can do that. However you like it. Okay, so now we've built out our case. Okay, so that's going to really help us customize that email and really personalize it. So that's going to help us when we build out the email subject and email message line. So that's going to help us. Next, we can build the subject out. And here, in this case, our subject, okay, our subject is equal to, right, we have already defined the subject, but what we want to do now, right, we've defined the subject here, okay, but what I don't want in this subject, right, I don't want it to say happy birthday first name. I want it to say happy birthday Randy or happy birthday whoever, right? So what I want to do is I want to replace this with the actual first name. Okay, I want to use replace, and we can use replace in the code as well. So the subject is going to equal, and then you can say replace. Okay, but what do you want to replace? Well, I want to replace the existing subject. And what do you want to find? Well, I want to find first name. Okay, right? I want to find wherever that is, and then what do you want to replace it with? Well, I want to replace it with the actual first name. In this case, it's first name. Okay, we define first name right up here. First name, oh, NM. Let me make sure to do that right. Okay, and so we're going to be replacing that, but we want to do more than that, right? We've got 5 variables, right? First name, last appointment date. We've got a total of 5. So let's go ahead and replace each one of them, and we can do that with the same line of code. We can just keep building it out. Okay, so we can add another replace on here onto this one. Okay, and we would do that with a comma here. Okay, and then now what do we want to replace? Well, now I want to, let's say, replace the last appointment date. Okay, so let's go ahead and build that out. I want to replace the last appointment date. Okay, with, and what do I want to replace it with? Well, the last appointment date. Okay, and great, and we can do that again and again and again until we do all 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy and paste this. There's 5 total, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 1 more. Okay, because we're going to do all 5 for both the subject. That means you can put any variables. You can put any variables you want in the subject. You can put any variables you want in the message. So it's really convenient. So let's go. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 5 replaced. Okay, so let's just go ahead and keep doing it. And the next one I want is, let's say, I believe that's the birth date. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in the birth date. And quotation marks. And that was birth date. Okay. Pound sign. And then with the actual variable of the birth date. And in this case, I don't want to just enter the birth date. If I enter BD date, which I can do, right? But what I want to do is I want to format this birth date. In other words, I just don't want it to show as a date. I want it formatted in a special way. So we can do that with format. Okay, and how do we want this date formatted? In this case, I don't really want to put the year in. I just want the month, and I want the date. So month, that means the full month. When you see 4 M's, that's the full month, and then a space, and then let's say 2 Ds, like it would be January 11th or something. Okay, so that'll format the date. So that's nice. Okay, now we are ready for that, and that's done. Okay, let me go ahead. I think that's not right. And then the next one is we have last appointment text. Remember that? We've built that out. We've built out the last appointment text. So why don't we go ahead and build that out now? Last appointment. Let me go ahead and slide this over so you can see it. There we go. Last appointment text. okay, pound sign, end quotes, and then we're going to replace it with the last appointment text variable. In this case, it's last appointment text. That's what we've just built out with the case. So let's go ahead and put that in. Last appointment text. Okay, great. And I believe we have one more, and the last one is the problem. Okay, that'll be all 5. So we're going to replace, anytime we see the word problem with the pound, we're going to replace that with the actual problem. And that's it. It's built out now. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing for message. So all we need to do, right, is copy and paste this entire line. Okay, and then go 1 row down, and then we're going to just update that with message. So MESG equals, and don't forget to replace the original message here with the variable, okay, MESG, and that is our original message variable. So now we've replaced all the messages and all the text in both of those with really the variables that we want. All right, so we're good with that now. All right, next up, what I want to do is I want to attach that coupon as an attachment in the email. It's a nice little gift if we can attach it. Right, so to do that, we'll need to set a location on your computer where Outlook can pull it from. Right, so we have set up in the variables in the strings a birthday pick location. So we're going to use that, okay, and we'll go ahead and define that. And we're going to say that's going to be equal to, now everybody's computer is different. So what we're going to be doing to find a good location to store it on, we're just going to store it on wherever the location of your workbook is. So in this case, we would do that simply by active workbook.path. That is wherever your workbook is, the folder that your workbook is, and that way we can set a name for that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set a picture on that, and we're going to enter that. Next up, we want to enter, and what I want to do is I want to personalize this attachment. I don't want it to just say coupon or voucher or birthday gift. I want it to have I want it to be really personal. We know the person's first name, so why don't we add their name to the name of the picture? That would be nice. We know it's first name, okay, and then why don't we add an apostrophe, and then S, so it would be like Randy's, right? Space, and then birthday, that's gift. Okay, so the name that we assign to this gift is going to have their name, .jpg. Okay, that's a picture. All right, so it's picture. So the file attachment is going to be in the workbook, wherever your workbook is located, and we're going to give it a name. We're going to say it's their name, birthday gift. So it'll be like Randy's birthday gift or Ted's birthday gift. And you can change this however you like, but that's just how I've done it. And the next is we need to go ahead and get that picture. And in our case, it's on sheet 2 under the template here. Okay, so we want to make sure that we activate that. So we'll go ahead and say sheet 2 activate. We want to make sure that that sheet is activated so that we can pull that picture up. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set a zoom level for that, because we're going to be converting it to a chart. So in that case, we want that chart to only show the picture. So we're going to set the zoom level, which we've defined as long. Zoom level equals 100 divided by sheet 2 parent dot window 1 dot zoom. And it's a little bit complex, this, but you can just write it down. And basically what that does is it sets our chart to a specific location. All right, we want to do that. And what we're doing is this is going to take basically whatever you set this as a print range. So in order for us to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this, whatever cells, and we're going to go into page layout, and we are going to go to the print area, and we're going to set the print area, right? We want only this to print, okay? Because our chart is going to be based off the print area in the code. So we want to set that as the print area. And in this case, what we're going to do after the zoom level, we have we have to set the picture range, okay? The picture range is going to be equal to sheet 2, okay, dot range, sheet 2. We probably don't need sheet 2 in here because we've already used with, but it's a little bit helpful just to make sure the specifics in case it doesn't know. Page setup, okay, page setup dot print area. And what that is saying is set this range to whatever the print area is. Now we just set the print area, remember? We just set it. So that's going to say, okay, well, what is the range? It's the print area. So as long as you have this print area set, you're good to go, okay? And I've already set it for you, so it shouldn't change for any reason unless you change it. But so we're good on that. And next up, what we want to do is we want to copy the picture to the printer. Okay, so we can do that. That'll help save the picture. Pick range, okay, dot copy picture, okay, to the Excel printer, okay. That's going to help us convert it to the chart, and then we're going to save the chart. And now we're going to set the chart picture. Set, we've already defined the chart picture as an object above. Chart picture equal to sheet 2 chart objects, okay, and then dot add, and then this is just going to be the location 0, 0. All right, so that's going to set that, and then pick range width. It's going to tell us how big, okay, width, and then it's going to be, well, how big, the zoom level. So we're just going to say basically we want it to be only that range and nothing bigger and nothing smaller. Zoom level, okay, comma, and then next basically we want to set the height of that. So we can do that. The pick range dot height, okay, is going to be also the same. So also at a zoom level, we just want to set the width and the height to 100%. Zoom level, okay, and that's good. That'll just set our chart picture. So we've now defined it, and now what we want to do is paste that into our, so basically we've copied that, now we want to paste it into the chart. It's a little bit confusing with here, but this code will work just fine. So basically all we're doing, Excel won't allow us to save this as a picture. We can't do it. So we have to take the range, copy it into a chart, and then save the chart. So that's all that this code is doing. So that's what we're doing with this code right here. And here now we're going to chart picture and the dot chart, and then we're going to paste it into the chart. Basically we're taking that picture and pasting it into the chart. Okay, now chart picture. Now we're going to export that. Now we're going to export that picture, chart pick export. Let's see if I put that in right. Okay, export chart export. I think I missed that. Okay, export. All right, and we're going to be export the birth. Where are we going to export it to? Where do we want it to export to? Well, we want to export it to the location that we've set before, which is the birth picture location. And then what do you want to do? As PNG, okay? PNG, all right. And that's going to do it. And so basically what that does is it takes this picture and it exports it to a place on your computer in this format, okay? So all we're doing is we're taking that chart, because we can do that with charts, and now we don't want to show the chart on the, we don't want to show the chart here, right? We just want the range. So we want to delete the chart, okay? Because we don't need it anymore. Once it's been exported, we don't need that chart anymore. So chart pick dot delete, okay? And that's going to delete the chart. So now we're good. Now what we've done is we've basically taken this range, saved it on your computer, and we're ready to attach it. So now we're ready for the email. And we can start off creating that email by setting the Outlook application set. And you'll want to make sure that you have Outlook on. It'll be quicker. And set up, well, even if you use Gmail to send out, you can set Outlook up just to send emails, even if you don't receive them. So that'll be helpful. Even if you're not using Outlook to send and receive, you can still use it to send. So you may want to set that up to use this so that it can send out properly. Set Outlook app equal to create object. This is going to create our email, create object. And what do we want to create? Well, we want to create an Outlook application. Okay, that's going to open the Outlook application. And I didn't type that in. create, I forgot an E. See, I know because it's small letters, I know I missed a letter there. Okay, there we go. Now we're good. And then next time we want to set up a mail. So this opens the application, this opens Outlook, and the next one will open the email. Okay, set Outlook mail equal to, again, Outlook app, because we know what we're using, out app, which is the one above, dot create item 0. Okay, and that is going to create our email. And now, well, what do we want to do with that? Okay, we want to do a lot of things with that actually. So with Outlook mail, okay, well, we want to set the to, right? The to is going to be who is this email going to go to, and we know that the email address is in column N, if I remember correctly. The email address is in column N, and in your case, you may want to check for a value here before creating an email. So in order of speed, I didn't do that, but to sheet1.range N and custom row, okay, dot value. All right, and now we want to add an attachment, right? And remember, our attachment is in our computer, right? Because we've just created it up here. Okay, so to dot attachments, and what do we want to do with that? We want to add. And what do we want to add? Well, it's all in this location, birth pick location. Remember, that's the entire file location, so that's all we need to do to add that. That's where it's located. Remember, because we created it here, we created it up here, so we know where it is, we know the name of it, we know everything. All we have to do is add it here. So we're good on that. And now what's the subject? Subject is equal to, we've defined that already, SUBJ. We've done that up there, and the message. And the message is called body in an email. Body is equal to what? Message. Good. And now dot display. This is important. Dot display means it's going to open. Okay, it's going to open and it's going to display. It's not going to send it. If you want to send it, change this to dot send. Okay, it'll send it without displaying it. For our purposes, I want you to see it in the training, so display. I'm going to put a comment in here. Change to dot send to send without displaying. Okay, so you can do that. What I've done in some of my applications is I've put a little option in here, like let's say send, and then or change the display, so that like you can do display type, and then you can if you set it to, in your application, if you set this to send, it'll send it when you change it to display. So you could do something like, right, that way you can change it from here without changing the code, like G22. You could say, okay, G22, I am going to set this to G22, right? And then it'll display or send based on your setting. But for our purposes, we will just go ahead and set it to display. And you know, if you wanted to send it automatically, you know to change that to send. Okay, and that's good. We're good. That's going to create our email. So that's all we need to do. And we can now write some code so that our Q range of the table gets the today's date, so that we know that the email was sent and that we don't send duplicate emails. We can do that here. Sheet 1 range Q, okay, and custom row dot value equals today date. Okay, so that's going to set the current date in that field, so that we know the email has been sent and we don't duplicate. And the other thing we want to do is we want to remove the picture in our computer. We put this picture there. Once the email is created, even if it's not sent, once the email is created, it goes to a temporary folder location in Outlook. So we don't need the version on our computer. We can simply do that to remove it with one line, kill, and then birth pick location. And basically that's just going to delete it. That coupon, a picture, we don't need it anymore. So we can do that. And we can also set Outlook to nothing, and we can do that on error, go to 0 just to clean up any errors. And then we can also do set Outlook mail equals nothing, and that'll clear out our Outlook email so that that's clean. And that's it if you want to do that. So then we've completed all of the code that we need to do it, and we can go ahead and run our code now. All right, let's go ahead and check it, and we'll run it now, and we'll see the emails getting created. All right, hi David, I want to take this opportunity. 8 days since your last visit, hope your headaches. Hi Fred, 3 weeks since your last visit, your blurry vision. And Harry, 5 months since your last visit, and we hope your pinch disc getting better. Let's go ahead and take a look at our gifts. We'll open them up. And Harry has his for Harry Jeffers, 20% off. He's got his name on his cake. That looks good. We'll go ahead and close that out. Let's take a look at Fred's. And Fred's is also looking good. And very good. All right, so I think we are good. And we've created all 3 emails. And if we go to, if we run it again, nothing's going to happen because we have set these emails to not to repeat if there's a date in here. So the dates have been entered, so we know that the emails have been sent, which is very helpful. And there's some other things that you may want to add to the code. If you're going to run this on startup, right? If you're going to run this when you create the startup, well, you might want to copy this, go to this workbook, and on workbook open, you may want to enter that code. Okay, I'm going to comment it out so it doesn't work. Okay, if that comment's here, it doesn't work, but it gives you an idea of something you may want to do. And also if you want it to run by itself. And also you may want to close the workbook. Okay, once it's all complete, you may just want to close it if it's only sending birthday emails. This workbook dot close, okay, and save. All right, that would save the workbook and close it. Okay, so that type of code will also save it on the end so that you don't have to worry about it. All right, that will be it. I hope you have appreciated this lesson. As always, I appreciate your likes, your shares, your comments. It's really helping me out. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed.